The wind howled off the Oregon coast, carrying the scent of salt and pine as it whipped through the dunes. But it couldn't drown out the pounding of Elias Carter's heart. He stood on the edge of the beach, toes sinking into the cold sand, staring at the horizon where the sun bled crimson into the Pacific. Tonight was the night. He was going to tell his family he was gay, and that he was in love with Jonah, the man who'd been his quiet anchor for 2 years. Elias, 24, had always been the introspective one in the Carter family, the middle child who preferred sketching in his journal to joining the boisterous debates his siblings loved. His brown hair fell in messy waves over his forehead, and his hazel eyes held a storm of nerves as he glanced back at the beach house. The lights glowed warmly through the windows, where his family was likely already gathered around the dining table, trading stories and laughter over their annual vacation. This year, they'd rented a sprawling house in Cannon Beach, a place where rugged cliffs met endless waves, and Elias had chosen this night to unburden his truth. He wasn't sure what scared him more, the possibility of rejection or the weight of finally being seen. His parents, Linda and Greg, were progressive in theory, Portland liberals who voted blue and hung a rainbow flag in their bookstore, but theory and reality were different beasts. His older brother, Marcus, 28, was the golden child, a charismatic architect with a knack for stealing the spotlight. His younger sister, Tessa, 20, was a firecracker, studying environmental science and always ready to call out nonsense. Elias loved them all fiercely, but love didn't guarantee acceptance. "Eli, you okay?" Jonah's voice broke through his thoughts. Elias turned to find his boyfriend approaching, his dark curls catching the fading light. Jonah, 26, was athletic, with a warm smile that could disarm anyone, but tonight his brown eyes were laced with concern. He wore a faded denim jacket over a white tee, and his hand reached for Elias's, a quiet gesture of strength. "I'm terrified," Elias admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "What if they don't get it? What if I ruin this whole trip?" Jonah squeezed his hand. "You're not ruining anything. You're being honest. That's enough." Elias nodded, but the knot in his stomach tightened. He'd rehearsed the words 100 times. "Mom, Dad, I'm gay. I've been with Jonah for 2 years, and I love him." Simple, direct, but every time he pictured saying it, his throat closed up. Jonah had come out to his own family, a tight-knit Filipino-American clan in Seattle, at 19, and while it hadn't been easy, they'd embraced him. Elias envied that certainty. Back at the beach house, the Carter family was in full swing. Marcus was pouring wine, his laugh booming as he recounted a story about a client who'd wanted a skyscraper shaped like a donut. Linda, 55, her silver-streaked hair pulled into a loose bun, was setting out plates of grilled salmon and roasted vegetables. Greg, 57, a bear of a man with a graying beard, was teasing Tessa about her latest protest march. The scene was warm, chaotic, familiar, but to Elias, it felt like a stage he was about to disrupt. "Dinner's ready," Linda called, spotting Elias and Jonah at the sliding glass door. "You too. Come eat before Marcus inhales everything." Elias forced a smile, his pulse racing. Jonah gave his hand one last squeeze before letting go, and they stepped inside. The table was set with mismatched plates, a nod to the family's eclectic taste, and a vase of wildflowers Tessa had picked earlier sat at the center. Elias took his seat, Jonah beside him, and tried to focus on the food, but every bite felt like swallowing sand. Marcus raised his glass. "To family vacations," he said, his grin wide, "and to surprises." His eyes flicked to his girlfriend, Amara, a 27-year-old graphic designer with a sharp wit, and a cascade of braids. Elias caught the look, a spark of something secret, but he was too wrapped in his own nerves to dwell on it. The conversation flowed: work, politics, Tessa's latest crusade against plastic straws. But Elias barely heard it. His hands were clammy, his fork trembling as he pushed a piece of salmon around his plate. Jonah nudged his knee under the table, a silent "you've got this." Elias took a deep breath, his heart thudding so loud he was sure everyone could hear it. I need to say something," he said, his voice cracking. The table fell silent, all eyes on him. Linda's brow furrowed. Greg set down his glass, and Tessa leaned forward, her green eyes wide. Marcus looked curious, Amara attentive. Jonah's presence beside him was the only thing keeping Elias grounded. "I've been wanting to tell you guys for a while," Elias continued, his words tumbling out. "I'm gay, and Jonah's not just my friend. He's my boyfriend. We've been together for 2 years." The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Linda's mouth opened, then closed. Greg's face was unreadable, his hands folded tightly. Tessa's eyes darted between Elias and Jonah, a mix of surprise and something else. Pride? Marcus leaned back, his expression shifting from shock to something harder to parse. Then Linda stood, her chair scraping against the floor, and crossed to Elias. She pulled him into a hug, her arms trembling. "Oh, honey," she whispered. "I'm so proud of you for telling us." Elias's throat tightened, tears prickling his eyes. He hugged her back, relief flooding him. But when he looked up, Marcus's face was a storm. His brother stood abruptly, muttering something about needing air, and strode out to the deck. Amara hesitated, then followed him. "What's his deal?" Tessa asked, her voice sharp. "Eli, that was badass. I had no idea, but I'm so happy for you." Greg cleared his throat, his voice gruff. "Son, we love you. Always will. Jonah, you're family now. Okay?" He reached across the table, shaking Jonah's hand with a firm grip. Jonah smiled, but his eyes flicked toward the deck, where Marcus's silhouette paced against the darkening sky. Elias's relief was tinged with unease. Marcus had always been his hero. Confident, unflappable, the brother who'd taught him how to ride a bike and sneak extra cookies. But now, Marcus's reaction was a jagged edge in Elias's chest. He excused himself, murmuring about checking on his brother, and stepped outside. The air was chilly, the waves a distant roar. Marcus stood at the railing, his broad shoulders hunched. Amara was beside him, her hand on his arm, speaking softly. Elias approached, his stomach twisting. "Mark, you okay?" he asked, his voice tentative. Marcus turned, his face tight. "You dropped this bomb tonight, Eli? Tonight of all nights." Elias frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Marcus ran a hand through his hair, his jaw clenched. "I was gonna propose to Amara tonight. Had it all planned, a walk on the beach, the ring, the whole thing. And now this." Elias's heart sank. "I didn't know," he said, his voice small. I couldn't keep it in anymore." Marcus exhaled sharply, his eyes softening but still conflicted. "I'm not mad you're gay, Eli. I need a minute, okay? This is a lot." Amara touched Marcus's shoulder, her voice calm but firm. "Marcus, Elias's truth doesn't take away from yours. You both deserve this moment." Elias nodded, but the words felt hollow. He'd bared his soul, and somehow it had collided with his brother's plans. The night he'd hoped would free him now felt like a fracture. Back inside, Jonah was helping Tessa clear the table, their laughter a stark contrast to the tension outside. Elias watched them, torn between the warmth of his family's acceptance and the sting of Marcus's reaction. He didn't know how to bridge the gap, but he knew he couldn't go back to hiding. The next morning, the beach house buzzed with a fragile normalcy. Linda was brewing coffee, her smile soft but cautious as she watched Elias. Greg was flipping pancakes, humming off-key, while Tessa scrolled through her phone, muttering about a climate rally. Marcus and Amara were absent, their bedroom door closed, and Elias couldn't shake the weight of last night. Jonah found him on the deck, sketching the cliffs in his journal. "You didn't sleep," Jonah said, not a question. Elias shrugged. "Marcus is pissed. I ruined his big moment." "You didn't ruin anything," Jonah said, sitting beside him. "You were brave. Marcus'll come around. He's your brother." Elias wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at him. He sketched harder, the pencil digging into the paper, as if he could draw away the ache. The day stretched ahead, filled with planned family activities. A hike, a bonfire, a game night, but all Elias could think about was Marcus's face, the way it had hardened when he'd walked away. By midday, the family piled into 2 cars for a hike to Akola State Park. The trail wound through towering firs and ferns, the air thick with the scent of damp earth. Elias lagged behind, Jonah at his side, while Marcus and Amara led the group, their heads bent together. Tessa chattered about tide pools, oblivious to the undercurrent of tension. At a lookout point, the family paused, the Pacific sprawling below like a living canvas. Linda snapped photos, Greg pointed out a bald eagle, and Tessa climbed a boulder for a better view. Elias watched Marcus, who stood apart, staring at the horizon. Amara nudged him, whispering something, and Marcus's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Eli," Marcus called, his voice steady but not warm. "Walk with me." Elias's heart thudded, but he nodded, falling into step beside his brother as the others continued ahead. Jonah gave him an encouraging nod, staying back. "I'm sorry about last night," Marcus said after a long silence. "I wasn't mad about you being gay. It's just I had this whole plan for Amara, and your news threw me. I didn't know how to handle both." Elias swallowed. "I didn't mean to steal your thunder. I just couldn't wait anymore." Marcus nodded, his eyes on the trail. "I get it. I want everything to be perfect for her, you know? And now I'm wondering if I should even propose this week." "Don't let me stop you," Elias said, his voice earnest. "You love her. She loves you. That's what matters." Marcus stopped, turning to face him. For the first time, Elias saw vulnerability in his brother's eyes, the kind Marcus usually hid behind confidence. "You're my little brother, Eli. I'm proud of you, okay? I just need to figure out how to do this right." Elias's chest loosened, a flicker of hope igniting. "We'll figure it out together," he said. That evening, the family gathered on the beach for a bonfire. The flames crackled, casting shadows on their faces as they roasted marshmallows. Marcus and Amara sat close, her head on his shoulder, and Elias felt a pang of envy. Not for their love, but for the ease of it. Jonah's hand found his, a quiet reminder that their love was just as real, even if it was a harder one. Tessa, ever the instigator, suggested a game of truth or dare. "No dares," Linda said, laughing. "We're too old for that." "Speak for yourself," Greg teased, but they settled on truths. The questions started light. Favorite childhood memory, most embarrassing moment. But when it was Marcus's turn, he hesitated, his eyes flicking to Amara. Truth, he said, his voice low. Amara, I was going to do this differently, but will you marry me? The group froze, Tessa gasping, Linda's hand flying to her mouth. Amara's eyes widened, then softened, tears glimmering. She nodded, pulling Marcus into a kiss as the family erupted in cheers. Elias's heart swelled, but a small part of him ached, wondering if his own truth would ever be celebrated so openly. Jonah leaned close, whispering, "See, there's room for both." The rest of the trip was a blur of joy and tension. Marcus and Amara's engagement brought the family together, but Elias felt the weight of unspoken questions. Tessa was his fiercest ally, peppering him and Jonah with questions about their relationship, her enthusiasm a bomb. Linda and Greg tried to include Jonah in every conversation, but their efforts felt careful, like they were navigating a new map. On the last night, Elias and Jonah walked the beach alone, the stars bright above. Elias stopped, turning to Jonah. "I don't know if I'm ready for all this. Family, expectations, the future. But I know I love you." Jonah smiled, pulling him close. "That's enough for now." As they stood together, the waves crashing at their feet, Elias felt a quiet strength. He'd come out, faced his family, and found love in the chaos. Marcus's proposal had been a beautiful collision, a reminder that life didn't wait for perfect timing. The Carters were messy, flawed, and fiercely loving, and Elias was part of that, exactly as he was.